Something huge is brewing at Tesla right now. Multiple huge Tesla stories have just been confirmed, and one of them has been confirmed by Tesla directly. And then there's this bullish rumor: Tesla full self-driving passed Chinese regulatory approval, supposedly. The rumor is based on this Chinese post, which I translated here. It says Tesla is reportedly ready to deploy FSD in China and will launch in batches. So I kept digging, and eventually I found that the rumor is based on this news story. Tesla is readying a software update for customers in China to offer driver assistance capabilities similar to those marketed as full self-driving in the US, sources say, according to Bloomberg. And then there's this huge news story which was directly confirmed by Tesla. Tesla's Lars, who is one of the most important people at Tesla, just dropped massive news. He talks about Tesla's new affordable models here. The most difficult part of doing that is not making the cars worse, so I promise that they will not be a massive step down from the cars we sell today. And these affordable models are supposed to be launched in the next few months. And the problem earlier that many investors were discussing was, we think it's actually not going to be new affordable models. It's just going to be basically stripped down Model 3s and Model Ys. But based on the language that Lars is using here, it really doesn't seem like it is just going to be stripped down Model 3s and Model Ys. Also, there were rumors earlier in December that this new vehicle will be 15% smaller and 30% lighter. You can definitely make it lighter by just basically making it a Model 3 with, I don't know, a lighter battery, and you strip down some of the parts as well. You can somehow manage making it lighter, but making it smaller, you cannot do that unless it's a different vehicle. The thing that confused many investors before was the fact that it was said this vehicle is going to be $37,500 before incentives in the US. Currently, Tesla's cheapest vehicle in the US is $42,500. So $37,500, that's obviously still cheaper than the Model 3, but it's not that much cheaper. But if you look at the cheapest Model 3 that you can buy right now, the range is very good, 363 miles, and the speed is also really good. It's 5 seconds, basically 0 to 60. But if you also make this car 30% lighter and 15% smaller, I am sure you can get that price much lower than $37,500. So my personal opinion is that Tesla threw that $37,000 price out there just to confuse everyone so that people still keep ordering the current vehicles. And when this new vehicle is first going to be launched, I think they will actually probably price it at $37,500 if the IRA incentives are still around, but if they are not, they will probably launch it maybe even a bit cheaper than that. Also, the rumors from a year ago also aligned pretty well with what Tesla seemingly is planning right now. Tesla plans to build new electric vehicles in mid-2025, so the timeline aligns. The name of the project was Redwood, which would be a compact crossover, and we have also heard rumors from a bit more than a year ago, maybe now, that there were suppliers that were getting basically directives from Tesla to prepare for a thing like this, but we haven't heard any leaks or anything in that regard anymore after that. But then last year in April, we had this drama that supposedly Tesla completely dropped its plans to make an affordable mass market electric vehicle. But then Elon Musk basically called the Reuters report a lie, saying that the project was not canceled. But Elon Musk was not very specific with how he called out Reuters, making some people speculate that maybe he's just playing a game with words. But now with this new additional information from Lars, I would be so surprised if we don't see an actually new, more affordable model that's completely new from Tesla that doesn't look exactly like a Model 3 or a Model Y. I believe it's going to be a smaller car. So to me, the statement from Lars was huge news as a Tesla stock investor. And then there's more news confirmed by Tesla, which is big news. The refresh Model S and X are getting another refresh. Supposedly, Tesla is going to launch a new Model S and X later in 2025. And this announcement came directly from Tesla, although it was slightly vague. This was also from Lars. He said the upgrade a few years ago was bigger than most people thought in terms of architecture and structure. We'll give it some love later this year. Everyone here has a little place in their heart for the S and X. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. Some people are definitely happy that Tesla is going to refresh a Model S and X. And now here's some really strange news. The Russian president calls to partner with Elon Musk to advance technology development in Russia. What? Obviously, that's not going to happen, but Wow. And I've seen some even mention a Tesla factory in Russia, so I need to dig into this a bit deeper. Personally, I really don't think Tesla will build a factory in Russia. Definitely no. This news story had me doing a double take because at first I thought this must be clickbait, but no, it actually happened. I think though, largely he's talking about SpaceX. In October of last year, there was a report from Wall Street Journal that Elon Musk has been in regular contact with Putin since 2022, but Elon denied that he had regular contact with him. However, from Russian sources, we know that there is definitely at least one call that happened. This was confirmed by Russia directly. And supposedly there was a request from the Russian president to not activate Starlink near an island that China wants to take over. So I would not be too surprised if one day we wake up and we see a whole bunch of headlines about Elon Musk and Russia. We are learning more about what's happening in China in regards to Tesla's FSD. Tesla China is going to start introducing FSD from this particular update. And it seems like they are maybe not going to call it FSD exactly, but it will do a lot of the things that FSD normally does, like recognizing traffic lights, turning left and right, making a U-turn, and then changing lanes. And James admits that all of this is obviously big news for Tesla because China is Tesla's biggest volume market and FSD penetration has been basically zero. But then he asks a question. Will the Chinese consumer tolerate the very iterative improvements we have seen in North America before losing patience with it? It had better work well and really well, since while FSD has no competition outside of China, in China it is a different story as many domestic players offer solutions with similar features already. And these solutions usually they use LiDAR, by the way, so they can't really be scaled. And if you try the latest FSD version both on hardware 3 or hardware 4, both are really good now compared to before. These last updates, especially on hardware 3, that last update was so much better compared to anything else before. And my biggest issue with FSD today as a user of FSD is it usually does a double stop when there's a stop sign. The first stop is at the stoplight, and the second stop is when you actually have good visibility of the road, because usually where the stop line is, at least where I am here in Vancouver, you don't have good visibility, so you need to creep forward for you to actually see if there is anyone coming from left or right. And for the first time ever, I've been able to drive for about 1 hour with practically no disengagements. I intervened a few times when going through a stop sign, but not a single time did I have to intervene or take over due to a safety related reason. And overall, the drive was very comfortable. The only annoyance was the double stops going through stop signs, and in Vancouver City we have a lot of them. But practically after this update, for the first time, I am confident whatever I see Omar doing and the kind of drives that he does in San Francisco, I can replicate them here now in Vancouver City as well. If I wanted to, I think I could do like a 4-hour drive, no interventions, just driving in the city. Maybe not on take one, but if I keep trying, I'm sure I can actually pull it off now. In a 1-hour drive with no interventions, it shouldn't really be hard anymore. And I'm not only talking no disengagements, but comfortable driving. Before, however, here in Vancouver City, we have flashing green lights and it would suddenly slow down in front of them, and we have a lot of these here. It was just not a very good experience going through these traffic lights. So I would have to press on the accelerator pedal to go through these so that the car doesn't slow down. So keeping all of this in mind, I am sure that most Chinese people, when they get FSD, they will have a pretty decent driving experience on FSD. However, my friend has a Model X, and him using the latest FSD version on his vehicle, it wasn't nowhere near as good as what I have. So if you do have a Model X, and maybe this applies to a Model S too, but definitely to a Model X, just keep in mind that your FSD experience is not going to be as good as those who have a Model 3 or a Model Y. Oh, and this is some bullish news. India is considering reducing import tax on EVs from 110% to 15%, which of course would be quite bullish for Tesla. But considering is different from is going to put these reduced tariffs in place, and also even if they are going to reduce them, likely there's going to be a cap how many vehicles per year get this lower tariff. And my European friends will love this. Lars from Tesla confirmed that indeed Tesla's FSD is coming to Europe in a few months. So that's definitely exciting, but I think more people are more excited about the lower cost models coming in the summer. And Tesla is also not sleeping on the Cybercab. There are more people that are being hired for Cybercab related positions in Austin, Texas. These are related to manufacturing and designing it. By designing it, I mean designing the manufacturing process. So Tesla is gearing up hiring for the unboxed process into production. It's not a lot of jobs, it's just 6 jobs, but it's definitely a start. They should start building Cybercab starting in 2026, and they will be using the unboxed process for this. And the following is what the Cybercab and the new affordable vehicles will be using. This is from the Investor Day that was hosted earlier, but a lot less silicon. Cost of drivetrain will be reduced to $1,000, 50% reduction in factory footprint, and 0 rare earths required. And this is some important news. Tesla is developing a new process so they don't have to paint the Cybercab. Lars said you inject the paint at the same time that you make the plastic panels. There's no paint job with that vehicle. We put the colors in when we make the panels. That's it. If you want to repair it, it's just basically paint. Jeff explains that it's a very cool process done elsewhere, but in very different applications. Very novel for vehicle housings, but it will look and wear well. This unlocks, unboxed, and eliminates the need for a paint job, which is a whole other unlock. But would that also mean that all exterior panels are plastic? Not necessarily. Could be insert molded over various metal types. In fact, I would be really surprised if that was not the case. So no paint job for Cybercab is huge, or to be more technically correct, it's going to be a lot smaller. Uber CEO says that they will be competing with Tesla. Good luck. You will seriously need it, and you will lose. The Uber CEO said that Tesla would like to go at it alone in Austin, so we will be competing with them. Gary Black will definitely not like this news because he owns Uber. I know that some investors are going to be surprised that Tesla is not going to partner with companies like Uber, but Elon couldn't have made it even more obvious than it already was. He said it very clearly. They are not going to partner with anyone. Interestingly, the average American spends over 3% of their year driving. But once robotaxis are a reality and FSD is safer than human driving, that time will be allocated to more productive things like watching movies, playing games inside our vehicle, or buying Tesla stock. What's really fascinating is that despite the Cybercab being the smallest Tesla, Sawyer found it to be the most comfortable inside. It has the most leg room in any Tesla and the biggest screen in any Tesla. And here's Gary's comment on Tesla not being in the Uber network. Why would Tesla be able to offer autonomous rides way cheaper than Uber when 10 to 12 other auto manufacturers will be able to offer autonomous rides on the Uber app? It's not like Tesla will be the only autonomous option out there, just like Tesla is not the only EV maker. Well, the problem with all these other automakers that are trying to make FSD work is they rely on LiDAR, geofencing, so they can scale, but very slowly, and it's expensive. But Tesla, when it figures out FSD, is going to be able to just press one button and here you go. It works everywhere. The question is, how long exactly will it take for Tesla to get to that point where it's safer than human driving anywhere in the United States of America? The only real competition I see is from China, but these companies, I doubt they will be allowed to operate freely in the US, and in the long term, I doubt that Tesla will be freely operating in China with FSD unless it trains its FSD software in China, but then the US doesn't want Tesla to do that. It's a whole thing here. But even if Tesla only has the US market and the European market and other countries excluding China, I think that's still incredibly valuable. And that will take Tesla stock to well above $1,000 per share, way above it. Then Gary points out how there are other EVs that are doing fairly well. Well, according to Elon Musk, he said on one of the earnings calls that he is not aware of any other company except Tesla that is profitably making fully battery electric vehicles. So his opinion is that all these companies that claim to make money from EVs, they are basically subsidized either from sales from hybrids or maybe even directly from the government. In the meantime, Tesla sold more EVs than any other manufacturer on Earth last year and the year before and the year before profitably. And then eventually Gary Black concedes a little bit. It's never a winner take all. Even Apple, which has the best cell phone in the world, has just 18% market share. And then Omar says, just check the share of the industry profits. And Apple's profit share at the global smartphone market has been high, including 85% in 2022. And so here is where Gary Black concedes. It may be the same with EVs, 85% profits go to the market leader, but Apple still owns just 18% share of industry units. Well, what matters is profits and revenue. And Tesla has the #1 best-selling vehicle in the whole world, despite that vehicle actually being much more expensive than all of the other previously best-selling vehicles in the world. So who would ever care if Tesla just had 18% of units but got 85% of the profits? And personally, I believe that by far the #1 thing that matters with robotaxis is cost. Cost is what matters in the end. And Tesla's innovative unbox process will deliver industry-leading cost efficiency, which will make the Cybercab cheaper than anything that's of equal value. And then Tesla makes its own software too, FSD software. So there's so much efficiency built into the Tesla ecosystem that when it comes to cost, you just cannot compete against Tesla. Other companies, they just specialize in one thing. They either make cars, some make EVs, some make the software, and some try to solve full self-driving. It's not smoothly integrated into this one nice package. Tesla will have an app for booking a robotaxi ride, whereas Uber has to take a percentage for itself. Tesla just keeps it all for itself. So if Tesla, in the end, just because it's much more cost efficient, even if other companies somehow solve full self-driving and can scale it actually, all you need is just maybe a 20% cheaper price regularly, pretty much always, for people to say, why would you even ever use Uber? I mean, maybe if you need like a super fancy car or something like that, that's very unique. Okay, sure, go ahead. You can pay more for that. But for most people, they just want the cheapest price as long as the service is decent and good. And Tesla's vehicle is going to be very nice. So the experience is going to be top notch. So then after that, it's just a matter of cost, how much it's going to cost for the end consumer, and the lowest price will win, and Tesla will have the lowest price. So it doesn't matter that Uber has 170 million monthly active users. If these users are going to pay a lot more, they will quickly wisen up and switch. It's sort of like right now, why would I call a regular taxi and typically spend a little bit more money and have a slightly worse experience instead of just getting an Uber? Of course, I will pretty much always get an Uber if I can. And here is Tesla engineer hinting that Tesla will indeed offer autonomous rides way cheaper than Uber. The Tesla engineer replied with a laughing emoji. When Gary Black said, why would Tesla be able to offer autonomous rides way cheaper than Uber? He's an important engineer at Tesla, so that post actually is pretty meaningful. And if you haven't tried yourself the latest FSD version, I'm specifically talking about FSD 13. If you haven't tried V13, or if you have a hardware 3 vehicle, and if you haven't tried the latest version on hardware 3, you're really missing out big time because the improvement is radical. And if your opinion is based on any FSD software before V13, you're so misinformed and you're so behind. And I'm about to show you a pretty significant car accident, but no one got hurt. And this vehicle that's recording, it's on FSD, the latest software version of FSD. And here's what happened. This BMW just spins out and FSD immediately reacts. Do you think you would have had enough time to react? Some people would have had enough time to react, but do you notice how FSD sort of went right a few times, correcting for how much space there is? Like in the last moment, it moved just a tiny bit more, and that was just enough to go through that BMW, through that gap that the BMW left. If it wasn't on FSD, I'm not sure if the driver would have dodged this accident. So this is absolutely incredible. And this is why I like to drive on FSD, because I actually do feel quite safer. Not because I just feel safer, but because I'm pretty sure it's actually safer. And while this is not perfect data, it clearly suggests that having autopilot, and I would assume FSD on as well, is definitely much safer than just driving manually. From my personal experience, I can safely say at this point that FSD sometimes notices things before even I do. Now imagine if just for half a second, the driver, let's say, looked at the passenger because he or she was talking to the passenger, and while the driver was looking away, the car obviously would have just kept driving straight forward, and then that crash would have been probably fatal to that BMW driver because the Tesla vehicle would have crashed directly into the driver's door. But thanks to FSD, we avoided that fatal accident. Now, someone said a car crashed in front of you and you left it up to FSD. Whoever said that probably does not have experience driving on the latest FSD version, because if you do have experience with it, you know that it often reacts a little bit faster than even a person could. And here is Ray's third time now that he encountered FSD responding to a siren sound. Before, this was an issue, but seems like it is more consistent now to responding to sirens. So FSD pulled over on the side of the road until these emergency vehicles passed. We also got some good news here. Tesla's China Model Y production capacity has exceeded 2,000 per day. So we are getting close to record production now. According to this betting website, there's a 15% chance that the next generation Roadster is delivered this year. And Lars also commented on the Roadster, oh, it is definitely real. We are working with SpaceX on that now. Cold gas thrusters are super cool, and they added a certain level of breaking the laws of motors physics. I promise you, the new Roadster will come out. I last worked on it this past Tuesday. Also, Lars explained why the new Tesla Model Y doesn't have the 46.8 volt architecture. We will in time. When you're talking about that many units a week, it's a lot of supply chain to bring up. We are beholden at some rate to our supply basis capabilities. We will get all our cars to 48 volts. We're trying to manage that supply chain. Also, the ramp is happening in Berlin as well. Tesla produced 450 new Model Ys to Giga Berlin during the first 2 days of production. In terms of delivery expectations, Gary Black says it's very clear that Tesla's Q1 deliveries are going to miss Wall Street expectations. So I would keep that in mind, but I'm not really worried about deliveries right now. My focus is just on FSD progress, and I'm happy with it. And here, the new Tesla Model 3 has won the Best Urban Electric Vehicle Under $100,000 award in Australia by Drive Car of the Year. So you mean there are cars that cost $95,000 that are considered worse than this Model 3? This is incredible. Their review says, the Model 3 is so far ahead of its rivals on value, space, performance, comfort, technology, efficiency, and charging that the vote in this category was not a difficult one. Ugh, someone vandalized a Tesla supercharger. And by now, probably Tesla just removed it this morning. The camera most likely got the person who did it. And Tesla announced that they will press charges for vandalism. I definitely agree with Omar here. You shouldn't face violent threats or vandalism because of who you vote for. It's wrong, and it sets our country and our energy transition back. This is just so embarrassing and so inefficient. The GSA, which manages buildings owned by the US federal government, is shutting down all of its EV chargers nationwide, describing them as not mission critical. The agency, which manages contracts for the government's vehicle fleets, also will offload newly purchased EVs. They currently operate several hundred EV chargers with about 8,000 plugs. So they used taxpayer money to build out this network, and now they're just going to shut it down. What a total waste. Also, why do you have to shut them down? I assume there are probably some problems with these chargers, but it was a mistake already not to use Tesla in the first place. And James, who can definitely be critical of Tesla sometimes, says he just saw the new refreshed Model Y and he really liked it. Interior is perfect, exterior changes make it feel fresh, and the sound system was impressive. They also had a Model 3 Performance on display, and he says he would buy it today if he didn't need a space for the kids. And he says he will order a Model Y Performance refresh on day one of availability. Oh, and did you know that Starlink has become Nigeria's second largest internet service provider with over 65,000 subscribers? This is quite interesting. We will see a lot more headlines like that. And Mercedes CEO says here that they will not be following Tesla into robotaxis, which obviously makes sense, even though supposedly they have a pretty good full self-driving system, which I don't think is that good. Here are things that the Mercedes owner will use autonomy for themselves, or if they choose, they will add their autonomous Mercedes to the Uber network. Well, that is if Uber will actually remain not bankrupt in the future. Whoa, this is in San Francisco. This is right in front of a Tesla location. There was a protest over the weekend, and there were quite a lot of people. Well, this is definitely very good news for Elon Musk. DOGE is one of the most popular parts of President Trump's agenda. Undertaking a full-scale effort to find and eliminate fraud and waste in government expenditures has support of 76% of Americans, and only 24% oppose it. Also, check this out. Deporting immigrants who are here illegally and have committed crimes. 81% support this. 19% of the people oppose deporting criminals from the country. that are here illegally. Wow. I have quite a few friends in Europe, and some of them are a bit reluctant when it comes to spending money, largely because of what's going in Ukraine, and they're just not really sure how that's going to affect their finances in the long term. So they are very careful with spending money. But there's some good news on that front. The Russian president orders ministers to prepare for Western companies to return to Russia, which implies that there should be peace soon. So that would be good. Also, Elon security guards have now been given special authority, which allow them to be armed at all times, even when they are in government buildings. They can also use deadly force and be covered by the government. I love this post from Elon. Consistent with the president's instructions, all federal employees will surely receive an email requesting to understand what they got done last week. Failure to respond will be taken as a resignation. There's a senator that's really upset about this, and Elon Musk replied to her, which actually got more views than the original post that she posted. What did you get done last week? Elon Musk commented more about that email going out to all government employees. The reason this matters is that a significant number of people who are supposed to be working for the government are doing so little work that they are not checking their email at all. In some cases, we believe non-existent people or the identities of dead people are being used to collect paychecks. In other words, there is outright fraud. And if you have been watching my channel for the last 13-14 months, you will remember me saying multiple times that my teenage brothers are asking me everything I know about making money. They want to know everything. How do they make money? And I saw also some comments below my videos saying that even though they think it's a buying opportunity for Tesla stock, they just don't have any more money to buy Tesla stock. So I will do an event on May 3rd and 4th, which will cover everything I know about money. There's a link down below if you'd like to sign up. I will see you there. And my name is Matt Posius, and I believe that Tesla stock is going to $1,000 per share, and I will see you later.